And with this, I would like to introduce the speaker of the day, Mr. Vivek Agarwal. He is a CS and a LLB. His area of specializations are lays in income tax survey, inspection, search, seizure and arrest under GST, income tax appeals, and consultation and advisory in the matters of GST. In terms of his professional credentials, he is author of a book titled Taxpayers Practical Guide to GST on Jewelry Trade and Industry. He's also co-authored a book titled Taxpayers Practical Guide to Survey under Income Tax Act 1961. He's been a regular speaker at various branches of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. He regularly contributes videos on GST for professionals on caclubindia.com and his YouTube channel Vivek Agarwal CACS LLB, and who have more than 3,000 subscribers and more than 2 lakhs views. With this, Vivek sir, I welcome you to this today's VCM. Let me also introduce the chairman of the session, Mr. Hari Agrawal. Mr. Hari ji, he is a senior partner at Hari Agrawal and Associates, a chartered accountant firm based in Hyderabad. The firm is in operation since 1987. Sir has wide array of experience in survey, search and seizure matters. He regularly represents before the ITAT CIT appeals, and his area of specialization also lies in the Benami Transactions Act. He is again authored a book, Taxpayers Practical Guide to Survey under Income Tax Act. He is also presented more than 150 papers on survey and search at various branches of ICI. His contributing monthly column on survey, search and seizure update for more than 20 years in the newsletters of published by the Hyderabad branch of ICI. He periodically delivers talks on Doordarshan and All India Radio. He was formally nominated as a member of Ethical Standards Board of ICI, New Delhi, and is also faculty on direct taxes for post-qualification certificate courses conducted by ICI. With this, Mr. Hariji, I welcome you to today's VCM, and we look forward to hear your experience and your thoughts on this on today's session, TCS provisions on sale of goods.
Thank you. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Over to you, sir.
Yeah. At the outset, I would like to thank Jiten Mehta ji, Rajendra ji, Anuj ji and Arif ji and other organizers of Matunga CP Study Circle for inviting us to deliver a talk on TCS on sale of goods. It is my privilege to address an august gathering of learned professionals of a fraternity. We will be taking up the question and answers at the end. And before we begin the session, we will start it with a short prayer of our Guruji, Sadhguru Ramesh ji from Purna Ananda House of Enlightenment. I request everybody to join me. Loka samastha sukhino bhavantu. Loka samastha sukhino bhavantu. May all the souls of the universe be happy and peaceful. Thank you. I'll share my screen. Yeah. So the topic of today is TCS on sale of goods. I would say that the topic itself is deceiving, because as we proceed towards our discussion, we'll understand whether TCS is really applicable on sale of goods or TCS is applicable on some other point of time. So let us discuss further. What we will be covering in the webinar today is, though we have a lot of learned professionals, but still I would be taking up the session right from the basics to bring us all on the same page. So we will be discussing in brief the meaning of TCS, what are the conditions for applicability of TCS. We will be discussing a lot of examples, a lot of issues, and at the end, I will be sharing 2 thumb rules. By applying those 2 thumb rules, we will be able to understand whether on a particular transaction TCS provisions would apply or not. And with the second thumb rule, we will understand on which amount TCS is required to be collected. So I request everybody to just flow with me. I understand that many of us might have already read various articles and videos. So let us take it a fresh start from here. We will be discussing the Bayer Act. We will analyze the Bayer Act and we'll discuss with examples as well. So what is TCS? Tax collected at source is the tax that is collected by the seller from the buyer and deposited to the account of the government on behalf of the buyer. So seller is basically acting as a mediator between the buyer and the government. The ultimate tax burden is falling on the buyer. Now coming to the buyer. As buyer is paying the TCS amount to the seller, seller is paying this amount to the government. The burden has fallen on the buyer. So the buyer will get the credit of the same in his income tax return in 26 AS. So basically, what is the objective of bringing this provision? As we all are aware, the government's intention is to bring as many transactions as possible within the ambit of TDS or TCS provisions to build up their database as to what transactions are happening in the market. Let us discuss the Bayer Act. Every person, so person we already know, person is defined in Income Tax Act to be individual, HUF, AOP, BOI companies. So every person being a seller. What is the meaning of seller? We will discuss in the next slide. Every person being a seller who receives any amount as consideration for sale of any goods. Here, I would like to highlight the first important point of the provision, which says this provision is applicable only for sale of goods. For sale of services, this provision is not applicable. For sale of any goods of the value or aggregate of such value exceeding 50 lakh rupees. So the line which I have marked in blue can have 3 interpretations. What are those 3 interpretations? First interpretation. These provisions would be applicable when the sale consideration that I am receiving exceeds 50 lakh rupees is the first interpretation. Second interpretation. These provisions are applicable when the value of goods sold is more than 50 lakh rupees. Third interpretation. These provisions are applicable when the value of goods sold and consideration received both should be more than 50 lakh rupees. So in our opinion, and by reading the language of the CBDT circular issued on 29th September 2020, we can draw a finite conclusion that these provisions are applicable when the sale consideration is received more than 50 lakh rupees. So let us go back to our Bayer Act. Every person being a seller who receives any amount as consideration for sale of any goods of value or aggregate of such value exceeding 50 lakh rupees in any previous year other than the goods being exported out of India. This word, exported out of India, this is also creating a lot of confusion in the market. What confusion? We will discuss in the next slide. So, other than goods being exported out of India means for the transactions of exports, these provisions would not apply. Or goods covered in subsection 1 or subsection 1F or subsection 1G of 206C. So what are these subsections? These subsections are for the transactions on which TCS provisions are already applicable. So here comes the second exclusion. Second exclusion is what? For the transactions where TCS provisions are already applicable, TCS on sale of goods would not apply. So the first exclusion was for export transactions, TCS provisions would not apply. Second, for transactions on which existing TCS provisions are already applicable, even on those transactions, the new TCS provisions for sale on goods would not apply for obvious reasons, because the government does not want the sellers to be overburdened. So whether it is under subsection 1, 1F or 1G or 1H, if the transaction is covered in TCS, that is sufficient for the government because the government is getting the database. Let us proceed. Shall, at the time of receipt of such amount, here comes the next, the most important point. When he has to collect TCS at the time of receipt of such amount, at the time of receipt of sale consideration. So we have to focus on when are we receiving the sale consideration. Shall, at the time of receipt of such amount, collect from the buyer a sum equal to 0.1% of the sale consideration exceeding 50 lakh rupees. Exceeding 50 lakh rupees. For an example, if I am the seller and I am receiving 54 lakhs, so the amount which is exceeding 50 lakh rupees is how much? It is 4 lakhs. So when I receive 54 lakh rupees from my buyer, I will be collecting TCS 4 lakhs only and not on 54 lakhs. Provided that, one more exclusion. Suppose on a particular transaction, buyer is already liable to deduct tax at source and has actually deducted such amount. See here, both the conditions have to be satisfied. First condition is what? First condition says the transaction should be already liable for TDS applicability and the buyer has actually deducted TDS amount on such transaction. When both the conditions are satisfied, then on that particular transaction, TCS on sale of goods would not apply. Now let us understand the meaning of seller. Seller means a person whose total sales, gross receipts, or turnover from business. Let us focus on the word business. Because to fall in the ambit of seller, the person should be in the business of that commodity. If he's not in business, then these provisions would not be applicable, as that person would not fall in the definition of seller. First important point in the definition of seller is what? The person should be in the business. From the business exceeds 10 crore rupees during the financial year, immediately preceding the financial year in which the sale of goods is carried out. So what does it say? It says that first, the seller should be in business. Second, the turnover of the seller in the preceding financial year. The turnover of the seller in the preceding financial year should exceed 10 crore rupees. Then, if these two conditions are satisfied, the person would become a seller. Now let us understand the meaning of buyer. Buyer means a person who purchases any goods, but does not include. So in buyer's definition, exclusions are mentioned. What are the exclusions? The central government, state government, an embassy, a high commission, legation, commission, consulate, and the trade representation of a foreign state or a local authority, or a person importing goods into India. So the person, the importer, the person who is importing goods into India will not fall in the definition of buyer. So basically what we can conclude here is, for export or import transactions, these provisions would not apply. Or any other person, as the central government may by notification in the official gazette specify. So to my knowledge, till now the government has not specified any person in this notification. Let us do analysis for this. What is the definition of goods? The title of the provision itself says TCS on sale of goods. So it is a responsibility to understand whether a particular transaction falls within the definition of goods or not. If the transaction does not fall in the definition of goods, then obviously these provisions are not applicable. So it is important to understand कि goods का मतलब ही क्या है. So the term goods is not defined in the Income Tax Act. However, the definition of goods is given in two acts, Sale of Goods Act as well as the CGST or the GST Act. However, in my opinion, the definition which is given as per the Sale of Goods Act is most closely relevant, or we can say it is more specific to the current provisions. So let us understand what is the meaning of goods as per the Sale of Goods Act. Goods means every kind of movable property. Every kind of movable property. With this, we can draw a conclusion that immovable properties are out of the purview of this TCS provisions. Because if a transaction does not fall in the definition of goods, then these provisions are obviously not applicable. We need not check the other conditions. So goods means every kind of movable property other than actionable claims and money, and includes stock and shares. So shares are goods. Now whether these provisions are applicable for transactions in shares or not, we will discuss in the next slides. Right now we'll just understand First thing, goods means we have to understand we are talking of movable properties only. Second, and includes stock and shares, growing crops, grass, and things attached to or forming part of the land, which are agreed to be severed before sale or under the contract of sale. So broadly, we just have to remember goods means movable property. Let us proceed. Now coming to two important conditions. Suppose we want to check the applicability of TCS on sale of goods provisions for financial year 2021. What we have to do? First, we have to check whether the turnover in the preceding financial year, that is financial year 1920, is more than 10 crore rupees or not. If it is more than 10 crore, the first condition is satisfied. Second condition, for the current financial year of 2021, the sale consideration received for any goods is above 50 lakhs from a single buyer. So this limit of 50 lakhs is per buyer basis, that is per PAN basis, per year. Every year this limit of 50 lakhs is to be checked. The second condition is what? For the current financial year. For the current financial year, the sale consideration received should be more than 50 lakhs from a single buyer. For the previous financial year or preceding the financial year in which the sale is actually carried out, for the preceding financial year, the turnover should be more than 10 crore. For the current financial year, the sale consideration received per buyer should be more than 50 lakhs. More than 10 crore, more than 50 lakhs. And both of these conditions have to be satisfied cumulatively. That is, even if one condition is not satisfied, these provisions would not apply. Now coming to the TCS rate. If the buyer is furnishing his PAN, then normally the TCS rate is 0.1%. But considering the COVID pandemic prevailing in the country, the government has reduced the TCS rate to 0.075% up to 31st March 2021. So as of now, the TCS rate is 0.075%. If the buyer does not furnish his PAN, the TCS rate would become 1%. So from 1st April 2021 onwards, the TCS rate will be 1% if the buyer does not furnish his PAN. Now coming to the TCS rate, when the buyer does not furnish his PAN, what would be the rate up to 31st March 2021? Whether the relaxation was applicable even for such transactions where the buyer is not furnishing his PAN? In my opinion, it is not applicable and the TCS rate would become 1% only. So there are mixed opinions in the market. Some professionals believe that the rate would be 0.75% and some believe it should be 1%. And in my opinion also, it should be 1% only. Now this example is extremely important. I request everybody to focus on this slide. First, we want to check the applicability of TCS provisions for financial year 1920. We need not check because we all are aware these provisions are applicable with effect from 1st October 2020. Now coming to financial year 2021, what was our first condition? My turnover in the preceding financial year should be more than 10 crore. I am checking the TCS applicability for financial year 2021. So preceding financial year is 2019-20. For financial year 19-20, the turnover should be more than 10 crore. In my example, the turnover is 23 crores. It is obviously more than 10 crore. So the first condition is satisfied. Now, whether turnover of the current financial year is also relevant. My turnover of the current financial year is 8 crore, which is below 10 crore. So friends, my turnover of current financial year is not relevant. I have to check the turnover of the preceding financial year. Next, the second condition. My sale consideration which I am receiving per buyer should be more than 50 lakhs in the current financial year. So for financial year 2021, in the example which I have mentioned, the sale consideration that I am receiving per buyer is 75 lakhs, which is more than 50 lakhs. So my second condition is also fulfilled for financial year 2021. As both the conditions are satisfied, TCS provisions would apply to me for the financial year 2021. Now the question comes on which amount it is applicable. It is applicable on the amount in excess of 50 lakhs. In the example, it is 75 lakhs. So excess of 50 lakhs is 25 lakhs. On 25 lakhs, I am required to collect TCS at the rate of 0.075%. Now coming to financial year 21-22. For checking the applicability of TCS provisions for financial year 21-22, first, I need to check my turnover in the preceding financial year. My turnover in the preceding financial year is how much? 8 crore, which is below 10 crore. My first condition is not satisfied. As my first condition itself is not satisfied, I need not check the other conditions. For the financial year, TCS provisions would not apply. Now coming to financial year 22-23. Again, what I have to check? I have to check my turnover in the preceding financial year. That is 21-22. My turnover is 20 crore, which is more than 10 crore. So the first condition is satisfied. Great. Now let us check whether the second condition is also satisfied. For the financial year 22-23, that is the current financial year, my sale consideration which I am receiving per buyer should be more than 50 lakhs. In the given example, it is 45 lakhs, which is below 50 lakhs. So my second condition is also not fulfilled. My second condition is not fulfilled. Hence, as both the conditions are not fulfilled, for the financial year 22-23, the provisions of TCS on sale of goods would not apply. So with this slide, we can draw a conclusion that these provisions or the applicability of these provisions are to be checked on financial year basis. Every year we have to check whether I am satisfying both the conditions or not. If I am satisfying in a particular year and not satisfying the conditions in the next year, again the applicability would vary. So on year to year basis, I have to understand and apply these conditions. Now, what are the compliance requirements for the sellers? Now our clients who are the sellers are having basically 4 responsibilities. What are the 4 responsibilities? First responsibility, to collect TCS from the buyers. Second responsibility, to deposit the TCS to the account of the government. Third responsibility, to file quarterly statements of TCS. And fourth responsibility, to issue TCS certificates to my buyers. So these are the four responsibilities of a seller. Now coming to the due date of payment of TCS. We all know the due dates and the compliances are almost same like TDS. So if I'm collecting any TCS, say in the month of October 2020, I'll have to deposit the TCS to the account of the government within 7th of November 2020. So basically it says the TCS is required to be deposited to the account of the government by 7th of the succeeding month in which consideration is received. We shouldn't focus on sale. We should focus on consideration. Ki paisa kab aaya? So the responsibility for the seller to deposit the amount of TCS to the account of government falls in the month succeeding the month in which the consideration is received. Now coming to the quarterly statements, the payment is monthly, the statement is to be filed on a quarterly basis. Now what are the due dates? For the quarter ended 30th June, the quarterly statement is to be filed by 15th July. TCS certificate is to be issued by 30th July. Quarter ended 30th September, quarterly statement is to be filed by 15th October. TCS certificate should be issued by 30th October. Quarter ended 31st December, quarterly statement is to be filed by 15th January. TCS certificate is to be issued by 30th January. For quarter ended 31st March, the quarterly statement is to be filed by 15th May and TCS certificate is to be issued by 30th May. So basically 15 days time limit is given from the due date of quarterly statement to issue the TCS certificates. Now we have come to the most interesting part of the webinar, that is the examples. And in the examples, I want everybody to focus on when are we receiving the consideration. Sale is not at all important. We have to focus on ki paisa kab aaya. That is important for us. So here comes the first thumb rule. The first thumb rule is that paisa kab aaya. First example, I have done the sale before 1st October 2020. I have received the sale consideration also before 1st October 2020. I have intentionally mentioned sale because I want all of us to understand that sale is not the criteria. We have to focus on the first thumb rule. The first thumb rule is पैसा कब आया? पैसा 1 अक्टूबर 2020 से पहले आया, so TCS provisions would not apply. Second example, I have made sale before 1st October 2020. I have received the sale consideration on or after 1st October 2020. So sale is done before receipt is done, or I have received the sale consideration on or after 1st October 2020. First thumb rule, paisa kab aaya? We have received the money on or after 1st October 2020. Hence, for this type of transactions, TCS provisions would apply. Third example, I have made the sale on or after 1st October 2020. I have received the consideration also on or after 1st October 2020. First thumb rule, paisa kab aaya? We have received the consideration on or after 1st October 2020. Hence, for these type of transactions, TCS on sale of goods would be applicable. Fourth example, I have made sale before 1st October 2020 and payment is received next year. We just have to apply our first thumb rule. पैसा कब आया? पैसा next year आया. So the TCS provisions would be applicable in the next year, but subject to fulfillment of other conditions once again in the next year. So next year also I should check whether the consideration received per buyer is more than 50 lakhs or not. Now coming to consideration in kind. In jewelry industry, this is a very common transaction where the seller, the jewelry retailer, sells ornament to the customer. Let us say the value of the ornament is 60 lakhs. The customer, instead of paying the money, he sells his old ornament to the seller. Let us say the value of the old ornament is also 60 lakhs. So as a seller, I am receiving the money or the consideration in kind. So whether TCS provisions would apply even for the consideration which is received in kind? The answer is yes. Next, will my supplier also collect TCS on my purchases? And will I get the credit while filing my ITR? This is a very common question asked by our clients. So we all know, as a seller, we will be collecting the TCS from the buyer. Buyer will get the credit. So this is how the flow of transactions would happen. Next confusion was whether this threshold of 50 lakhs rupees per buyer is applicable from 1st October 2020 or it is applicable right from 1st April 2020. For this, the CBDT has clarified in the circular issued on 29th September 2020 that it is for the entire financial year. It is for the entire financial year. Just a second. Yeah, it is for the entire financial year, but we have to collect TCS only on the amount which is received on or after 1st October 2020. For checking the threshold of 50 lakhs, the receipts of the entire financial year is to be considered, but TCS is required to be collected only on the amount which is received on or after 1st October 2020. Nothing to worry, we will discuss this with a lot of examples. Now, next scenario, I have received advance before 1st October and I'm making the sale after 1st October. First thumb rule, पैसा कब आया? पैसा 1st October के पहले आया, so for this transaction TCS is not applicable. Next, I have received the advance on or after 1st October 2020. First thumb rule, पैसा कब आया? 1st October के बाद आया, TCS is applicable. Now, whether these provisions are applicable even on sale on approval. I repeat, we shouldn't focus on sale. Our focus should be on paisa kab aaya. So whenever this approval, the sale which is made on approval, crystallizes into sale, and when the buyer pays the sale consideration to the seller, when the seller receives the sale consideration, these TCS provisions would apply. So at the time of sale on approval, these provisions are obviously not applicable. But when the sale crystallizes, or rather when the sale consideration is received by the seller, that time we have to check the applicability. So what are the different ways to collect TCS? There are a lot of opinions going on in the market for this. Each professional or each client is having his or her opinion. So basically, I could understand there are broadly 3 types of methods being followed in the market. First option, charge the amount of TCS on the invoice itself. We have to charge the amount of TCS on the invoice itself. Option number 2, we need not charge the amount of TCS on the invoice. We will just indicate that the TCS provisions would be applicable if the sale consideration received for this transaction exceeds 50 lakh rupees. So what is the advantage of mentioning this note? This note reminds our buyers that if the sale consideration exceeds 50 lakhs, I will be collecting TCS from you. In the first option, we are directly mentioning the TCS amount on the invoice. In the second option, we are not mentioning the TCS amount on the invoice. We are just mentioning a note. And later on, when we receive the sale consideration, we will issue a debit note for the TCS amount. Option number 3. Nothing is mentioned on the invoice, neither the TCS amount nor the note. Directly when the amount is received from the buyer, seller issues a debit note for the amount of TCS and collects the TCS amount from the buyer. So all these three practices are fine. It depends upon person to person. Some clients would prefer option 1, some clients would prefer option 2, some clients would prefer option 3. That doesn't matter. So as it is comfortable to the accountants, they can follow. Now let us come to the second thumb rule. In the second thumb rule, I have summarized, or in the first thumb rule, we have understood whether, or first thumb rule gives us the answer as to whether the TCS provisions would apply for a specific transaction or not. The second thumb rule, which we are discussing now, will help us in understanding on which amount I have to collect TCS. So I have summarized the steps into 3 parts. Step number 1. No matter when I receive the consideration, whether before 1st October or after 1st October, doesn't matter. In step 1, I will just calculate the total receipts during the financial year, the total receipts of the seller per buyer basis during the entire financial year. Step 2, calculate the receipts in excess of 50 lakhs. In step 1, I got the total receipts. In step 2, I will calculate only the excess receipts over and above 50 lakhs. Step number 3. Now TCS would be applicable on lower of the step 2 value, that is the excess amount over and above 50 lakhs, or the amount received on or after 1st October 2020. The lower of this amount will be the step 3 value on which TCS provisions would apply. Let us apply these 3 steps on various examples. First example, receipt from buyer up to 30th September 2020 is 80 lakhs. Receipt from buyer from 1st October 2020 to 31st March 2021 is 1 lakh. Nothing to worry. Let us just apply our steps. Step number 1, we have to calculate the total receipts during the financial year. 80 lakhs plus 1 lakh, 81 lakhs. Step 1 answer, 81 lakhs. Keep it aside. Step 2, calculate the excess amount over and above 50 lakhs. 81 lakhs minus 50 lakhs, 31 lakhs. So the step 2 value is 31 lakhs. Coming to step 3. Now TCS would be applicable on lower of the step 2 value, which is the value in excess of 50 lakh rupees, 31 lakhs in our current example. Or the sale consideration that I have received on or after 1st October 2020, in our example, it is 1 lakh. So TCS would apply on lower of 31 lakhs or 1 lakh, whichever is lower. 1 lakh is lower, hence TCS provisions would apply on 1 lakh rupees. Second example, my receipts from buyer up to 30th September 2020 is 12 lakhs. Receipts from buyer from 1st October 2020 to 31st March 2021 is 38 lakhs. Just apply the steps. Step 1. Total receipts during the financial year. 12 lakhs plus 38 lakhs, 50 lakhs. Keep it aside. Step 2. Calculate the receipts in excess of 50 lakhs over and above 50 lakhs. 50 lakhs minus 50 lakhs, 0. Keep 0 aside. Step 3. TCS would apply on the excess amount as per step 2, that is 0, or the sale consideration that I have received on or after 1st October 2021, which is 38 lakhs. So step 3 is lower of 0 or 38 lakhs. Whichever is lower, obviously 0. So for such transactions, TCS provisions would not be applicable. Next, receipts from buyer up to 30th September 2020 is 30 lakhs. Receipts from buyer from 1st October 2020 to 31st March 2021 is 75 lakhs. Let us just apply our 3 steps, our second thumb rule. Step 1. Total receipts during the financial year is 105 lakhs. Step 2. Calculate receipts in excess of 50 lakhs, that is 55 lakhs. Step 3. TCS provisions would be applicable on lower of the step 2 value, which is over and above 50 lakhs. In our current example, it is 55 lakhs, and amount received on or after 1st October 2020, that is 75 lakhs. So lower of 55 lakhs or 75 lakhs, it is 55 lakhs. On 55 lakhs, TCS is required to be collected. I hope that this is clear. Now coming to job work transactions. For job work transactions, we need not check anything because of 2 reasons. First, job work is a service. So for service, for sale of services, TCS on sale of goods is not applicable. Secondly, for job work transactions, TDS is already applicable. So for these 2 reasons, job work transactions are out of the purview of TCS on sale of goods. Now let us understand the treatment of advances. ABC Private Limited is the buyer. Advance received from buyer up to 30th September 2020 is 80 lakhs. Limit of 50 lakhs is to be checked from 1st April 2020 onwards. So the limit of 50 lakhs is crossing as on 30th September 2020 itself. Second, advance received from buyer during 1st October to 31st March is nothing, is nil. So though the limit of 50 lakhs is crossing for this particular buyer, he hasn't paid anything to the seller on or after 1st October 2020. Hence TCS provisions do not apply on this, or TCS is not required to be collected on this. Buyer number 2, XYZ Private Limited. I am the seller. I have not received anything from the buyer up to 30th September 2020. I have received advance from the buyer during 1st October to 31st March, 80 lakhs rupees. 80 lakhs is crossing 50 lakhs. Let us presume that the turnover of 10 crore condition is also satisfied. Second condition of 50 lakhs is also satisfied here. Hence, TCS is required to be collected on the amount over and above 50 lakhs, that is 30 lakhs. Third example, the buyer is PQR Private Limited. Advance received up to 30th September is how much? 30 lakhs. Advance received from buyer during 1st October to 31st March is 40 lakhs. Whenever we find this transitional issues, we just have to apply our second thumb rule of step 1, step 2, step 3. Step 1, total receipts 30 plus 40, 70 lakhs. Step 2, amount in excess of 50 lakhs, 70 minus 50 is 20 lakhs. Step 3, TCS on lower of the step. So step 3 is the TCS on lower value, which is the excess as per step 2, that is 20 lakhs, or the consideration which I am receiving on or after 1st October, that is 40 lakhs. So lower of 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs, 20 lakhs is lower. On 20 lakhs, I am required to collect TCS. Now coming to the next important part here, which are the issues. And there are a lot of issues in the market. Many people are asking whether on this particular transaction, these TCS provisions would apply or not, whether on this transaction, the TCS provisions would apply or not. So like this, there are a lot of issues already. Let us discuss the issues. First issue which was prevailing is whether the consideration will include the amount collected towards GST. Whether I am required to collect TCS, on the amount of GST also. For example, taxable value is 100 rupees. GST at the rate of 18% is 18 rupees. Invoice value is 118 rupees. Now the first issue was whether I am required to collect TCS on taxable value of 100 rupees or invoice value of 118 rupees. Again, the CBDT in the circular dated 29th September 2020 has clarified that TCS is required to be collected on invoice value, inclusive of GST value. TCS is required to be collected even on the GST amount. So to conclude, TCS will be charged on the invoice value of the bill. Next issue, whether the GST is to be charged on TCS amount. As per income tax, TCS is required to be collected on the GST portion as well. Now, as per the GST Act, whether this TCS amount which I am receiving from my buyer would be considered as a consideration, and whether GST would be applicable on this TCS amount also. For this also there was a clarification that this TCS amount which the seller is receiving is only an interim amount which the seller is receiving and paying to the government. So this does not form part of the sale consideration in terms of GST. So GST is not to be charged on the TCS amount. To summarize these two slides, TCS is required to be collected on the GST amount. That is, TCS is required to be collected on the invoice value, but GST is to be charged only on the taxable value amount excluding TCS. Next very important issue which everybody is facing is how should we give the impact of sales return, credit note, debit note? For this, let us imagine two scenarios. Scenario number one, I have made the sale, and before paying the consideration to me, my buyer has come to me and is asking for sales return. For this transaction, on the revised sale consideration which the seller receives, on the revised sale consideration which the seller receives, on the revised sale consideration, TCS is required to be collected and deposited to the government. Second scenario, I have made the sale to my buyer. My buyer has paid the sale consideration to me. I have collected the TCS amount from my buyer. I have paid the TCS amount to the government. Now, the buyer comes to me for sales return. For this, the government said that no adjustment is required, as the buyer will anyways get the credit of the TCS amount paid in his income tax return. So for such transactions, no adjustment is required to be done. Sale to and purchase from the same party. This is a very common transaction in a lot of industries, and especially in steel industry, where the sale is done to a party and purchase is also done from the same party itself. So whether the payment which is getting netted off by adjustment in the books of accounts, whether it will be treated as receipt of sale consideration, and whether on these transactions TCS provisions would apply. The answer is yes. Even though we are just netting off the sale consideration by adjustment in the books of accounts, it is deemed that the sale consideration is received by you and TCS provisions would be applicable. Next issue, whether transportation charges to be recovered from the buyer through the invoice raised for sale of goods will be subject to TCS. Again, this is a debatable issue. There are a lot of debatable issues, lot of opinions for each transaction. Opinion number one can be something, opinion number two can be something. However, we are of a firm opinion that whenever there is any confusion, let us take conservative view and apply the TCS provisions to avoid unwanted litigation in future, because the actual TCS amount would be very less, and even then the buyer is getting the credit of the same. So to avoid all this unwanted litigation of whether this transaction TCS would be applicable or not, we are of the opinion, let us take conservative view and apply TCS if we are doubtful. Now coming to transportation charges also, again mixed opinions are there in the market. However, we would say that as the amount of transportation would be comparatively small and TCS on the transportation charges will be much smaller than it, it is better to collect TCS even on the transportation charges and remit it to the government. Next, low threshold. See, when we are discussing about the threshold of 10 crore in the preceding financial year, it is actually quite low, because we see that most of our clients are having turnovers more than 10 crores. 10 crores is not at all a big turnover nowadays. So the threshold of 10 crores is quite less. And moreover, 50 lakhs per buyer, if we see, that is also quite less only. Now, basically the government's intention is to largen this database, collect as many database as possible from the different transactions. So to largen the database, government is trying to bring in as many transactions as possible in this ambit. Now again, we have discussed earlier that TCS provisions are applicable for sale of goods only. For sale of services, TCS provisions are not applicable. Let us discuss a small example. In jewelry industry, it is a very common practice where I'll mention on the invoice sale of jewelry making charges, and total invoice value. Sale of jewelry is what? Sale of goods. Making charges is what? Sale of services. We have discussed that TCS on sale of goods is applicable only on the transactions of sale of goods only. So as per this invoice, TCS provision would apply on sale of jewelry only. For making charges, TCS provisions would not apply. So there are mixed opinions in the market. Some are of the view that let us split the bill into sale of goods and sale of services. Now let us split the bill of the jewelry into sale of jewelry and making charges and see what happens. If I'm splitting the bill, I'll mention sale of jewelry in one invoice, making charges in another invoice. We all are aware that for sale of jewelry, the GST rate is 3%. For making charges, the GST rate is 5%. There is a concept in GST of composite supply, where the GST rate applicable to the principal supply would be applied on the other supply also. So in this invoice, my sale of jewelry is, suppose, principal supply. My sale of making charges or services, my secondary supply. My GST rate on sale of jewelry is 3%. On making charges is 5%. But as I'm mentioning both in the same invoice, it forms part of composite supply. So on the entire taxable value of both this, I have to charge GST at the rate of 3%. Now, if I split the bill into sale of jewelry and making charges, on the invoice of sale of jewelry, I'll have to charge GST at the rate of 3%, and on sale of making charges, I have to charge GST at the rate of 5%. So though I'm saving TCS, I'm paying more in GST. So if we plan to split the bill into sale of goods and services, we have to apply it carefully by considering the Income Tax Act as well as the GST Act also, and do what is more beneficial to the client. Next issue is a non-resident selling goods from outside India required to collect tax at source under this section. So non-resident is selling goods from outside India to India. We have discussed in the initial slides that the export-import transactions are out of the purview. So the person who is receiving or importing goods into India, these are out of the purview of the TCS provisions. Hence, on these type of transactions, TCS would not apply. Next, whether TCS to be collected on the sale of immovable property by a developer. Why we have mentioned specifically developer here? Because to make this transaction fall in the definition of seller, we have discussed in the initial slides the meaning of seller, and seller is a person who is in business. Hence we have mentioned here as developer, because the developer is in the business of sale of immovable property. The developer is falling within the definition of seller. Now, whether on this transaction TCS provisions would apply. We have discussed earlier, goods means every kind of movable property. So obviously, immovable properties are out of the purview of goods. Hence, as these are not goods, TCS provisions are not applicable. Next, TCS on sale of listed shares. For this, the CBDT has clarified that these provisions would not be applicable in relation to transactions in securities or commodities which are traded through recognized stock exchanges. So if the transaction for listed securities is being carried out on recognized stock exchanges, then TCS provisions would not apply. For off-market transactions, TCS provisions shall apply. Earlier we have discussed whether TCS is applicable on listed shares. Now we are discussing whether TCS is applicable on sale of unlisted shares. For sale of unlisted shares, TCS is applicable. Whether TCS shall be collected on sale of motor vehicle. This is very interesting case study. For sale of motor vehicle, there are two limbs of transactions. The manufacturer of motor vehicle sells the motor vehicle to the dealers. The dealers sell the motor vehicles to the customers. Second, I want to mention is wherever subsection 1F is TCS, which is specifically applicable to sale of motor vehicles in excess of 10 lakhs. So as we have discussed earlier, if on a transaction TCS provisions are already applicable, then TCS under subsection 1H would not apply. So wherever 1F will be applicable, 1H will not apply. Whenever 1F is not applicable, 1H will apply. First transaction between the manufacturers to dealers. When the manufacturers sell motor vehicles to the dealers, whether on this transaction TCS under subsection 1H would be applicable. This B2B transaction between the manufacturers and the dealers is out of the purview of 1F. So 1F is not applicable on this transaction. Hence, as 1F is not applicable, 1H would apply. To summarize, for B2B transactions of sale of motor vehicles from manufacturers to dealers, subsection 1H would apply. Now coming to the second limb of the transaction, which is between the dealers and the customers. We know that as per subsection 1F, 1F is applicable when the value of transaction exceeds 10 lakh rupees. We are focusing on dealers to end consumer. Transaction between dealers to end consumer. If the value of this transaction is more than 10 lakhs, 1F would be applicable. Hence, as 1F is applicable, 1H would not apply. But 1F is applicable when the value of the transaction is more than 10 lakhs. Now suppose in the next scenario, my value of transaction per transaction basis is below 10 lakhs. My value of each transaction is below 10 lakhs. 1F is not applicable, and 1H is also not applicable as it is below 50 lakhs. But if as an aggregate, suppose I am having 3 to 4 transactions, I am making 3 to 4 sale of cars, or I can say that suppose I am selling 8 cars to my consumer, which is below 10 lakhs. But aggregate of the value is exceeding 50 lakhs, then 1H would be applicable. I summarize this. First, for B2B manufacturers to dealers, 1F is not applicable, 1H would be applicable. Coming to the second limb of transaction between the dealers and the customers, if the value per transaction is more than 10 lakhs, 1F is applicable, hence 1H is not applicable. If the value per transaction is below 10 lakhs, 1F is not applicable. But if the aggregate of the value of the transactions exceeds 50 lakhs, then 1H would be applicable. I hope it is clear. However, I will be sharing these slides with everybody, and I have explained these provisions in these slides as well. Next issue, whether TCS is required to be collected on transaction in electricity. No matter what we see, whether TCS is applicable or not, first we have to understand whether the transaction is goods or not. अगर वो transaction good है, तो ही हम आगे के conditions देखेंगे. अगर वो transaction goods ही नहीं है, तो आगे के conditions देखने का कोई मतलब ही नहीं. So first let us understand whether electricity is goods or not. So as per the apex court in the case of Andhra Pradesh versus NTPC, the Supreme Court held that electricity is a movable property, though it is not tangible, hence it is goods. So Honorable Supreme Court has held that electricity is goods. Now coming to Customs Tariff Act, even in the Customs Tariff Act, for electricity, heading so and so is mentioned in HSN. So even as per the Customs Tariff Act, electricity is goods. So our first basic condition that the transaction should be goods is satisfied. Now the next question arises whether TCS is required to be collected on this. For this, CBDT has clarified in its circular that the transactions in electricity through power exchanges, TCS is not applicable. Next, whether fuel supplied to non-resident airlines be subject to TCS under this provision. Suppose Malaysian Airlines lands at Santa Cruz Airport, Mumbai, and fuel is supplied to non-resident airline, that is Malaysian Airline. So whether on this supply TCS provisions would apply? The answer is no. Again, the government has clarified in circular number 17 dated 29th March 2020 that fuel supplied to non-resident airlines at the airports in India, TCS provisions would not apply. Next issue, whether TCS is liable to be collected on sale of goods by customer. There is an important point of resale of goods here. Resale means manufacturer is selling to dealers, dealer is selling to customers. There is no such distinction. For all these transactions, TCS would apply if the conditions are fulfilled. Now coming to the transaction in a reverse manner where the customer is selling, to the seller. So whether on this transaction TCS is applicable, like in our example of jewelry, where the customer is selling old jewelry to the retailer, whether first transaction is what? The retailer is selling new jewelry to the customer. The customer is paying in the form of old jewelry. Whether the seller is required to collect TCS? The answer was yes, because seller was in the business of selling jewelry. Now coming to customer's point of view, the customer is selling jewelry, maybe more than 50 lakhs, but we have to check whether the customer falls in the definition of seller or not. We have discussed the definition of seller, which says the seller should be in business. And generally the customer is not in the business of selling jewelry. Hence, for the second transaction where the customer is selling jewelry to the retailer, TCS provisions would not apply on the customer. Next important issue with everybody is that whether the turnover which we are talking about, that the turnover in the preceding financial year should be more than 10 crore. Whether that turnover, which is more than 10 crore, should be inclusive of GST or exclusive of GST. Again, there is a lot of confusion in this. Both the opinions are prevailing in the market. For example, my turnover exclusive of GST is 9.5 crore. And once I include GST, my turnover is crossing 10 crore. So when it was 9.5 crores, TCS provisions are not applicable. The moment it crossed 10 crores, TCS provisions would be applicable. So whether the GST portion will also be included in the definition of turnover. The CBDT circular did not clarify it. There are mixed opinions, but once again we will take conservative view and we would say that better to consider it inclusive of GST. Everybody might have their own different views also. That is also right. Our opinion is, let us consider inclusive of GST. Whether the amount received as loan from buyer shall come within the ambit of this provision. Whether the loan transactions would also fall under this transaction or under this provisions. Loan is not received towards sale of goods. It is not a consideration towards sale of goods. Hence, for loan amount received by the seller, TCS provisions would not apply. Suppose the loan which I am receiving, in future, I am adjusting this loan amount against the sale made to the same person. At that time, when loan is settled against sales, it will be treated as sale consideration received, and at that point of time, TCS is required to be collected. So until it was in the nature of loan, TCS provisions would not apply. Once it loses the character of loan and takes the character of advance or consideration for sale of goods, TCS provisions would start applying. Next issue, whether the tax to be collected on transfer of goods from one branch to another. We have discussed in the initial slides that there should be a seller, there should be a buyer. There should be a sale of goods between the seller to the buyer. In case of branch transfer, the goods are not sold. I am just transferring the goods from one branch to another which are on the same PAN. Hence, it is not sale of goods. As it is not sale of goods, TCS provisions would not apply. Now, whether TCS is applicable on debts written off. We discussed that TCS provisions are applicable on receipt of sale consideration. When I am receiving the sale consideration, TCS provisions would apply. If I am writing off the debt, it means I have not received the sale consideration in any form, whether as per the book adjustment, whether in kind or any form. I am just writing the debt off. It will not be treated as sale consideration received, and hence TCS provisions would not apply. Next issue. If the buyer has multiple units, whether the sales made to different units of the buyers need to be aggregated. We have discussed that this limit of 50 lakhs is per buyer basis. So if the different units of the buyer are on the same PAN, then obviously the seller has to develop his systems in such a way that he gets a report of sales consideration received from different units from the same buyer. And if it exceeds 50 lakhs, then TCS provisions would be applicable. Now coming to government or government entities. If a seller's turnover in the preceding financial year is more than 10 crore, first condition satisfied. Second condition, receipts are more than 50 lakhs per buyer, that is also satisfied. But the buyer is central government or state government. So both the conditions are satisfied. Though both the conditions are satisfied, the person who is purchasing the goods is not a buyer, is excluded from the list of buyers. Hence, for this transaction, TCS would not apply. Now coming to the government entities. For government entities are not excluded from the definition of buyer. Hence, for the sales made to government entities, TCS provisions would apply. Now let us discuss a small example which has an impact in multiple financial years. What is it? If the seller liable for TCS under this provision sold goods worth rupees 60 lakhs to a single buyer in the financial year 2021, sale is not relevant for us, and collected 20 lakhs in the financial year 2021, yes, 20 lakhs is relevant for us. 20 lakhs is below 50 lakhs. Hence, for financial year 2021, these provisions are not applicable. Financial year 21-22, I further made a sale of 50 lakhs to the same buyer. Again, sale is not relevant for me. In financial year 21-22, the buyer paid all the due amount of 90 lakhs. Yes, this is relevant for me. Now 90 lakhs is more than 50 lakhs. On the excess amount over and above 50 lakhs, in the financial year 21-22, I'll have to collect TCS. Now coming to works contract. Even in works contract, there is a lot of confusion. Because in works contract, there is a sale of material, sale of services, that is labor. Now, whether TCS provisions would apply or not. So broadly, the conclusion in this is, if a single invoice is raised for sale of material as well as for labor, then TDS provisions are applicable. And if TDS is already deducted, then TCS provisions are not applicable. If the two separate bills are issued for sale of material as well as for sale of services, for sale of services, TDS provisions would apply. For sale of material, TCS under subsection 1H would apply. However, this is not a conclusive opinion. We might have some other opinion which may also be right. Now coming to combined consideration for sale of goods and services. Consideration paid for sale of goods is 45 lakhs. I am the seller, I have received consideration for sale of goods 45 lakhs. Consideration received for sale of services is 20 lakhs. Total consideration received is 65 lakhs. My total consideration which I have received is more than 50 lakhs. Whether these provisions are applicable, the answer is no. We shouldn't check total consideration. We should check the consideration that I'm receiving for sale of goods only. For sale of goods in my example, the sale consideration that I'm receiving is 45 lakhs, which is below 50 lakhs. Hence, for this transaction, TCS is not required to be collected. Second example, my consideration that I'm receiving for sale of goods is 80 lakhs. Consideration that I'm receiving for sale of services is 15 lakhs. Total consideration received by me is 95 lakhs, which is more than 50 lakhs. Total consideration is not relevant for me. I have to check the consideration that I'm receiving from sale of goods per buyer basis. For sale of goods in this example, the consideration is 80 lakhs, which is more than 50 lakhs. Hence, for this transaction, TCS provisions would apply. This is also a debatable issue. If my buyer is not paying me within the time allotted, I'll be charging interest on delayed payment. Whether the interest on delayed payment will be considered and TCS provisions would apply even on the interest on delayed payment. There is no specific clarification. However, once again, we'll take a conservative view and say that the interest portion also we will charge TCS. TCS on sale of jewelry, as we have already discussed earlier, prior to 1st April 2017, for sale of jewelry, TCS was there under section 206C subsection 1D. Then it was omitted. Now 1H is introduced. So for TCS on sale of jewelry, TCS is applicable under subsection 1H. What about personal consumption? If the seller is making the sale to a buyer, TCS is applicable. If the seller is using his own goods for personal consumption, there is no sale. If there is no sale, then TCS is not applicable. Sale of software. So sale of software was always a matter of litigation, whether it should be treated as service or it should be treated as goods. I'm not going into that. I'm just saying if we are treating it as service, then TDS provisions would apply. If we are treating it as goods, then TCS provisions would apply. Can a buyer apply for certificate of lower collection of TCS? This benefit is not available in 1H. Coming to out-of-pocket expenses, again, this is a big issue. Whether TCS would be levied on out-of-pocket expenses. For this, two opinions are prevailing. First opinion says that if the TCS or if the out-of-pocket expenses, form part of the invoice, then TCS is required to be collected, even on the out-of-pocket expenses. If the out-of-pocket expenses are not reflected on the invoice, then TCS may or may not be collected. Why I am saying may or may not be collected? Once again in this, we will be preferring to take a conservative view and collect TCS even on the out-of-pocket expenses. Supplies to SEZ. In the provision I have discussed what is the exclusion. First exclusion was exports out of India. Exports out of India was the exclusion. Now there is confusion prevailing in the market whether the supplies to SEZ is also considered as exports out of India. We all are aware that supplies to SEZ is deemed exports. So whether supplies to SEZ will fall in the definition of goods exported out of India, and whether supplies to SEZ, TCS would be applicable or not. Again, for this, there is no conclusive decision whether TCS would apply on these transactions or not. It would depend on facts and circumstances of each case. Next issue which is prevailing is, we are saying my turnover in the preceding financial year should be more than 10 crore. So in the preceding financial year, suppose my turnover is from sale of services as well. So whether I should include the sale of goods and the sale of services and check the applicability of 10 crore for both, or I should just check my turnover from sale of goods for the applicability of 10 crore. Again, we'll take a conservative view and we'll say that the turnover of 10 crore is to be checked for sale of goods as well as sale of services. But the limit of 50 lakhs per buyer is for sale of goods only. For turnover of 10 crores will include sale of services also, but for checking the limit of 50 lakhs per buyer, we will consider only for sale of goods. Now, what are the consequences for failure to collect and pay TCS? If I have collected and not deposited, 1.5% interest per month per annum, per month or part. If I have collected, if I have not collected at all, 1% interest. If I have not collected, penalty will be equal to the TCS amount. What will be the consequences of non-filing of TCS returns? Late fee of 200 per day under section 234E, and the penalty under section 271H can range between 10,000 to 1 lakh. Now, because of this, what are the changes that are required in business? First, me as a seller, our client will have to collect TCS from the buyers. Buyer will get the credit. The suppliers of the clients will collect TCS from the clients. The client will get the credit. If the client decides to charge TCS on the invoice, the billing format will change. There are additional 4 compliances on the clients, which we have already discussed. Monthly payment of TCS and quarterly filing of TCS returns are 2 broad compliances. Now, in this slide, I've mentioned some of the important points of the circular dated 29th September 2020. Though we have already discussed these points with a lot of examples earlier, but I thought it is, as the circular is very important, I'll just discuss the important points of the circular. First, the circular, as per the language of the circular, we could understand that the TCS provisions are applicable on receipt of sale consideration. Second point, if the sale consideration is received before 1st October 2020, पैसा 1 अक्टूबर के पहले आता है, तो there is no TCS. Second, if I am receiving the consideration on or after 1st October 2020, then TCS would apply, क्योंकि as per the first thumb rule, पैसा 1 अक्टूबर के बाद आया है and TCS would be applicable. Next, there was a confusion whether 50 lakhs limit would be applicable from 1st October or 1st April. The government clarified that this 50 lakhs limit would be applicable from 1st April 2020 onwards, but TCS will be collected on the amount received on or after 1st October 2020 only. Next, if a seller has already received 50 lakhs or more up to 30th September, the seller has already received 50 lakhs or more, then even if he is receiving a single rupee on or after 1st October 2020, TCS would be applicable. So these are some of the important points of the circular. Then the government on 30th September 2020 even issued a press release saying that the TCS which the seller is collecting from the buyers is not any additional tax. It is just in the form of an advance income tax which the buyers are paying. And the buyers will get the credit of the same against their tax liability, and if the buyer is entitled for a refund, they would get a refund also along with interest. Now we'll discuss what are the non-applicabilities. In case of goods being sold are covered by section 206C subsection 1, which covers alcoholic liquor, tendu leaves, timber, forest produce, other than timber and tendu leaves, scrap, minerals like coal or iron ore, or 1F, which we have already discussed for motor vehicles exceeding 10 lakhs, or 1G, wherein remittances is being made outside India and TCS is being collected by authorized dealer for the same. For these transactions, as TCS is already applicable, TCS under 1H is not applicable. This slide is extremely important. We can say that I have summarized all the conditions in this particular slide. अगर कोई हमसे पूछता है कि ये ट्रांजैक्शन पर TCS लगेगा या नहीं लगेगा, we will just have to apply these 6 conditions stepwise. If all these 6 conditions are fulfilled, then on that transaction, TCS provisions would apply. If any of these conditions are not satisfied, then the TCS provisions would not apply. So this slide is like a summary of everything. First condition. First, we need to check whether the transaction is falling within the definition of goods or not. Second condition, we need to check whether the seller is in the business or not, whether the person who is selling is falling within the definition of seller or not. Third condition, we should check whether the turnover of the seller in the preceding financial year exceeds 10 crore or not. Fourth condition, we should check whether the buyer is falling in the exclusion list or not. Fifth condition, whether the sale consideration received per buyer is more than 50 lakhs. Sixth condition, the transaction is already, if TDS or TCS provisions are already applicable on the transaction, then TCS on sale of goods would not apply. So we need to check these 6 conditions. If these 6 conditions are fulfilled, then TCS provisions would apply. That's it for today's discussion. I thank everybody for patient hearing, and I hope that this webinar was useful to everybody. However, we can have a discussion. I would not say question and answers because I understand there are a lot of ambiguities still in the provision. So we will have some discussions on this point and see what the audiences have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivek ji. So participants are requested, if they have any queries, elaborative queries apart from the one which are mentioned in the chat box, they can use the raise hand utility at the end of at the bottom of the Zoom window, and we will allow them to unmute and ask the query directly to the speaker. Vivek ji, there are certain queries. While I believe you have covered most of them in a session,
Yes.
so I'll just raise them in case you wish to address them specifically.
Sure.
Vivek ji.
Yes, yes.
Hello. Jitin Mehta here. I
Yes,
think that
Jitin.
multiple financial year that you told,
Yes.
next year when we collect the amount, it should be paid, right?
Yes.
But if in the previous year that 10 crore limit is not crossed, then it will not be applicable.
Yes, correct.
In the current financial year, I have received 20 lakhs. Next year, I have issued 80 lakhs.
Yes.
But in this current financial year, the 10 crore limit is not crossed.
Yes.
So then it will not be applicable, right?
Absolutely. We have to check both the conditions every year, sir.
Mm-hmm.
Hi. So I think before opening the dais for members' questions, Hari sir, would you want to add anything?
I will prefer that the time may be given for question answers because there is only 15 minutes left. So we will be just addressing another new issues if they come up. then it will be useful for us to take up in the next sessions when we address it at that places. So let the new things come in form of question answers.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
If we don't get in Bombay, then from where we'll get the new questions?
Yeah, that's true. Anuj, Kayur Shah is asking some question. You can just unmute him, Mr. Kayur Shah.
Yes, I have unmuted him.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Vivek ji. My question is on the threshold of 10 crore rupees. Now, if we read the BEAR Act, it says gross receipts or turnover. So, if I'm having a housing, I'm taking a office loan to buy a new office of 10 crore rupees. So, will that be considered in gross receipts of 10 crores and TCS would be applicable? Though my business turnover, I mean the trading turnover is less than 10 crores.
You're taking a loan for?
Office premises.
No. In my opinion, it shouldn't be.
Yeah, but the wording, if you because I will just deviate a little bit.
Yeah.
When we are talking about the new provision of tax audit from 1 crore to 5 crore, they
Yes.
have specifically done that gross receipts. It means you have to check the cash book, bank book, and the limit of 5% has to be calculated accordingly. And
Yes.
here, if we read the BEAR Act, gross receipts or turnover. So
Yes.
now, will the loan received will be considered in my gross receipts? I am confused on that.
In my opinion, it shouldn't be.
Okay.
But the gross receipts and turnover is defined here also, no? Vivek?
No, not specifically. In this provision, it is not specifically defined. So in
But
this,
it
there
is
is no.
mentioned that business turnover.
Yeah,
Turnover.
business is mentioned. Business is mentioned. Even in that, there is a confusion going on. Suppose I have a transaction of suppose more than 10 crore for a particular commodity which I am dealing as my business, and I'm doing an independent transaction separately. Whether that should also be included here or not. So for that also there is mixed opinion. That should be included or not. So as of now, I would say that there is no specific clarity, but it depends on our choice what we have to do.
Thank you.
Anuj, few members had raised hand before. I think.
I have unmuted Hinesh Bhai. Hinesh
Yeah,
Bhai,
okay.
can you raise the query?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Agarwal, for a very elaborate presentation. It was as if we were going back to our CA classes day. You know, every slide was very crisply summarized and explained by you as a student. My query is like this, that if there are two types of turnover, you see in most of the construction contract, we follow accounting standard 7, AS7 for recording the turnover. That turnover is different in books of account and what it goes in GST. Because in GST, we go based on invoice wise and then a reconciliation is done. So we have something called unbilled contract revenue and there is something called actual invoice. Which turnover to be counted in that situation? The books turnover or the GST turnover, because they both will be starkly different actually. That's my query.
Yes.
Books turnover.
The turnover as per the books would be considered, because if we see that GST
That is
has different
just a notional turnover. It is not actual turnover as per AS7.
Yes, whatever it is, but as per, in my opinion, the GST turnover is altogether different, because GST we are talking about aggregate turnover, which is completely different here. Here we have to see the turnover as per the Income Tax Act,
Okay.
which is
So
as
that
per
is
the books.
okay. So that is very clear. So whatever appears in the statutory books of account turnover, even though it is a notional turnover, still we have to take that.
Yes, as per the income tax. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Noted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Raju Bhai, would you want to take the ask the query?
Yeah. Vivek ji, one small query.
Yes, sir.
As on 1st April, there was amount receivable from a customer 20 lakh rupees.
Okay, sir.
Till October, the turnover is 70 lakhs in the current year.
Okay.
And we have received amount of 60 lakhs. There is a pure chance that 60 lakh covers 20 lakh of the opening balance. Still, TCS will be applicable on 60 minus 50.
When did we receive the 60 lakhs rupees, sir?
60 lakhs I have received, means of that 50 we have received up to September, and in the October month we have received 40 before and 20 afterwards.
Okay,
30th
sir.
September.
Even in this scenario, sir, whether I have made the sale before September or I've made the sale in the previous year, when I have made the sale is not important. As we have discussed, we have to focus on when are we receiving the consideration. So in this example of yours, sir, we are receiving 60 lakhs. If we are receiving 60 lakhs before 1st October, then TCS provisions would not apply. If we are receiving 60 lakhs on or after 1st October, TCS provisions would apply on 10 lakhs.
Okay.
Is this your question, sir?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Anuj, Mr. Harish and Mr. J.K. Tendulkar.
Sorry, I have unmuted Mr. Satish Kanodia. Satish ji, can you ask your query? I don't know.
Yes, and can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
See, actually, what Hinesh Doshi said, I was to say that Vivek ji has taken me especially back to my CA classes in Sydenham College, where in those days we didn't have the slides. We had professors like NP Sada teaching us accounts. Care, that you leave aside. Now my query goes like this. The buyer satisfies the condition of 10 crores in the previous year, and he gives an advance to the seller after 1st of October. Say of more than 50 lakhs, you say 60 lakhs. The TCS is paid on 60 lakhs and TCS is deposited, it will come in 26 years. Now my issue is, suppose that advance is returned back because of the cancellation of the contract. Then in that case, yes, your answer would be that the buyer would get credit of the TCS because it's reflecting in 26 years. There are no two views about that. But shouldn't the law be something to do with return or cancellation of contracts?
Of course, yes,
Now,
sir.
now in this year, the TCS is 0.1% till March is 0.75. But the history of India says that every year the TCS would go up slowly, and our articles after 10 years will see a TCS of 5%.
Yes.
Slowly, the government will increase every year without knowing. From 1%, they'll make it 1.25, then 1.5, then no. So shouldn't some representation, sir, be made that something should be there for the purpose of return?
Yes.
The reversal of the advance or reversal of the amounts paid.
Yes, sir. What you are saying is correct. We have been seeing this service tax also when it was introduced.
Yeah. And service tax was only on 5 services. Hari Saab, if you remember, service tax was only on 5 services.
Yes, and that was very small percentage.
Yeah, and I remember that in IMC in Bombay Chartered Accountants Seminar,
yes.
of service tax had said that why is it that everyone is making so much noise? It is only on 5 services.
Yes.
But then you and me know what happened till the end.
Yes, this is also going to happen that way only, sir. You have raised the point, very fantastic point, and this has been an experience of whichever government may be. The policy of the government is same.
But then what do you say for the purpose of cancellation of the contract?
Yes. There is a provision of revising the TCS returns also. So the choice may be given before this financial year end. If there is a reversal, the choice may be given to revise. We will write, sir. We will write that also, sir.
Yeah, and one thing more, don't you feel, Hari sir, with all your experience you have, this
sir.
TCS will lead more to litigation and rather than collection of revenue?
Yes, sir,
Because
that is
what is
correct.
what is the interpretation? Like Vivek sir had said during his lovely presentation that there are two views. So better to play safe.
Yes.
Now, a person, the client will say that for 10 crores, why do you add up goods and services both? You should only take goods.
Goods.
So that will lead more to litigation, sir. And what do
Yes.
can you say something about this?
Sir, I think the basic purpose for the present is just to gather the information in the form of AIR. So for tracking the transactions, whether the transactions are getting reflected or not, that is the basic purpose. As far as this TCS is being, we are just seeing that. But as you said, later on, it will become a revenue generation for the government.
Hope so.
And now it is very less percentage. But
Yeah.
slowly, sir, as we have experienced this, all these questions also will get resolved. Now, when what we are seeing now, when we are going to some articles or some books also. Yesterday also, I was just looking at some one of the amended sections in 2017 on this development agreement of this latest Chaturvedi Pithisaria commentary also and Sampath Iyengar also. They are also not writing. Previously, whenever we used to have a doubt, we used to refer these commentaries, and all the doubts used to
Yes,
get addressed
yes,
by the book writers.
Yes.
Now nobody is writing more than what the Bare Act is, and
Yes,
only
yes.
after the court judgments are coming, just they are reproducing the gist of the court judgments. They are not giving their opinion in writing now. I don't know what is the
Yes, yes,
reason.
yes.
We are not finding good good material on the new provisions. Everything we have to develop on our own basis only, own reading and own understanding only. So there
Yes,
only
yes,
that
yes.
is our this purpose of seminar. At least in our profession, we are able to share the views so that we
Yes,
can
yes,
get.
yes.
So that is helping us. Otherwise,
Yes.
it is very difficult for an individual to form opinion about so many critical issues. So people from our profession, our professional brothers, they are just helping us to by sharing the
Yes,
views
yes,
and
yes, 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 yes.
yes.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks.
Hari sir. Thank you, Satish
So
sir,
in this,
for
Yeah, yeah.
raising an interesting query. Sorry, Jitin bhai, you were saying something?
yeah, in this now 26A also TDS, they are now showing as a turnover mismatch. The similar case will happen with TCS.
Yes.
That you have shown turnover less and turnover as per TCS is more. So that again, there will be some problem with that.
100%,
Yeah,
sir.
next question. Anuj.
Interesting and a very simple question, whether a barter transaction would be covered. And if yes, then how to determine a sale consideration?
Yes, the barter transaction, in the example, if we say that it is a purchase and sale from the same party, so for barter transaction, definitely it would be considered as sale consideration and TCS would be applicable. Now coming to the valuation point of view, I would say the value of the goods which I'm selling, I would know the value of the good that I'm selling in exchange of that. So that should be the value of the sale consideration.
Okay, okay. I'm unmuting Mr. Harish Chaudhary. Sir,
Hello.
Hello.
It is fine now. We take
Yes,
up to,
sir.
we take up to 12:15. It is fine, sir.
We'll stop at 12 no.
Up.
Actually, we have to go
Up
to
to 12.
ashram today. We are
Okay,
having
okay.
some
So
spiritual session at ashram. So
So
we will today
yeah,
we
so
will have
only
at
2-3
12.
questions. Yeah, yeah.
You can just
Within 5
send
minutes,
it
we'll.
through email.
Yeah. You can ask one more question, one or two more questions, small questions, and then we can because it will take time. Yeah, one or two questions fast. Anuj.
yes. So, Mr. Harish bhai, if you can just raise your question.
Yes, sir. Hello, everyone. I have a very small question because everything is well explained by the sir. So my question is, it is actual question which raised by my party. So he received a check on 25th September saying 40-50 lakh. The limits are exceeding TCS is applicable, but what's he have received the check on 25th September, but he deposited into bank on 5th October due to unavailability of staff and closure of bank or something. So now what is the TCS will applicable from the accounting point of view or something like, because the check was received before but deposited in bank after 1st October.
Correct. This is a very common question which even others are asking in other webinars as well. So here I would say that, see, if you are going as per the law, it is a different thing. But if you are, again, suppose practically if you say that, let us ask the client to make the payment. Suppose the consideration for the check is suppose 60 lakhs. On
Okay.
10 lakhs, if he is making the payment of 0.075%, which is hardly an amount. So what, for this small amount, let us not build up a case of litigation, and better to pay it. However, my opinion is not towards making the payment or not making the payment, because again we'll have a contradictory view in this, that the date of check is before 1st October and the amount is deposited in the bank, or the check is cleared after 1st October. So again there will be a contradiction in this. But even in this, I would say that the amount wouldn't be much. So let us pay and finish it off. No, why to carry the litigation burden for future?
Okay. Thank you.
Anuj, other members can send by mail queries.
Yes.
We'll forward it to sir and we'll get the reply. Yeah,
Definitely,
yes, sir.
sir. Definitely.
Yeah, we'll take the queries by mail, and because you want to go out, we'll
Yes,
take the queries by mail,
Yes, yes.
and we'll forward it to you, and then we'll forward the replies to our members.
Definitely, sir.
Yeah, Anuj.
Yes.
Sorry,
Yes, and in
members.
this connection only, I will have to just mention that Vivek ji and Hari ji have been very kind enough to accommodate our session, as they pointed out that they have a function to attend, and therefore they adjusted us, and therefore, sir, we are really obliged to you. And as I think Hinesh Bhai has pointed out, Satish Bhai has pointed out, you have very much taken us back to our CA days, and we were feeling as if we were in a coaching class, understanding all the nuances, even though it's a simple section, but you have done a threadbare analysis and simplified it to the thumb rules, to the basic principles. And I think it's a very comprehensive and a well-rounded presentation. And I would ask everybody, all the members, to virtually applaud you for all the efforts and for your wonderful session, sir.
Share the screen. Anuj.
So this is
Thank you.
a
Thank
token
you.
of appreciation from us. Thank you, Vivek ji. Thank you, Hari, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll close the session, and sir, we will collate the queries and we'll forward it to you.
Definitely.
Thank you, sir.
Definitely.
Yes, sir.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.